Elellanar Whitfield froze, her hand outstretched toward a monarch butterfly, as a sharp sting pierced her forearm. She winced, brushing at the invisible culprit. Just a bug bite, she thought, a minor annoyance for a 70-year-old veterinarian who'd faced 1,000 worse in Yosemite's wilds. The ancient sequoias stood silent, the air unnaturally still. 5 days later, in Pinewood's urgent care, Dr. Patterson's clipboard clattered the floor, his face ashen as he stared at the monitor. "Get Dr. Mitchell now," he barked. The nurse's sneakers squeaked, racing away. Elellanar lay still, her son Thomas clutching her hand, his eyes tracing the impossible movement beneath her swollen skin. What was living inside her? And would they uncover its secret before it claimed her life? Elellanar Whitfield's life was stitched into fabric of Pinewood, a quiet town cradled by Yosemite's towering forests. For 43 years, she'd run its only veterinary clinic, her weather hands mending everything from racehorses to backyard chickens. At 70, arthritis and fading eyesight had forced her into retirement, though she'd never admit either slowed her down. Her craftsman home, with its wraparound porch and Frank's wind chimes, sat at the town's edge, facing distant mountains. 5 years ago, cancer stole her husband, Frank, leaving a void she filled with daily hikes into Yosemite's wilderness. It was her sanctuary, where grief couldn't follow. Her son, Thomas, lived a world apart. At 40, he was a rising star in Boston's medical engineering scene, his sleek apartment overlooking the harbor a stark contrast to Pinewood's clutter. A faded photo of his parents on his graduation day, tucked in a drawer, was his only tie to home. After Frank's death, Thomas attended the funeral, offered a stiff shoulder, and returned to Boston when Elellanar brushed him off. Their weekly calls were polite but shallow, weather updates, work updates, nothing real. "Your mother doesn't need you hovering," she'd say, dodging his visits. What she didn't say, "I can't face Frank's eyes in your face." What he didn't say, "I'm terrified of losing you too." On April 15th, 2024, Elellanar hiked Yosemite's trails, the air crisp, sunlight filtering through sequoias. A monarch butterfly landed nearby, and as she reached for it, a sharp sting hit her forearm. She frowned, rubbing the spot. A bug bite, nothing more. She'd had worse. By evening, a red welt the size of a dime appeared. She dabbed on antihistamine cream, swallowed a Benadryl, and unpacked her gear. "Just another souvenir," she muttered. Sleep came, but it was restless, haunted by dreams of something crawling beneath her skin. Day 2. The welt grew to a quarter, hot and angry, the center darkening to purple-black. Elellanar rummaged through her medicine cabinet, her veterinary instincts kicking in. Infection, maybe? She applied triple antibiotic ointment, ignoring the nagging worry. She didn't mention it during her Sunday call with Thomas. "Everything good there, Mom?" he asked. "Right as rain," she lied, wincing as pain shot her arm. Why did she hide it? Pride? Fear of being a burden? Or something deeper, a refusal to admit vulnerability? By day 3, the swelling stretched from wrist to elbow, red lines tracking toward her shoulder. Her fingers wouldn't straighten without agony. She'd seen enough infected animal wounds to know this wasn't normal. Still, she hesitated, opting for fish tank antibiotics, a vet's trick, over a doctor's visit. At the pharmacy, Harold, the elderly clerk, raised an eyebrow. "Looks like you tangled with something nasty." "Just a spider bite," she said, avoiding his gaze. That night, fever hit. She tossed in sweat-soaked sheets, her arm throbbing. In the dark, she swore something moved under her skin, a ripple that chilled her. "Frank," she whispered, forgetting he was gone. Day 4. Elellanar woke to an arm twice its normal size, the skin taut and shiny. A perfect circular hole had formed at the bite center, leaking clear fluid. When she pressed it, something recoiled beneath. Her hands shook as she reached for her phone, then stopped. Who would she call? Friends were gone or distant. Thomas was 3,000 miles away. The local doctor would send her to a hospital, alone. She doubled down on antibiotics, wrapped her arm in ice, and waited. That evening, Thomas called a day early. "Mom, you okay?" His voice held an edge. Just tired, she deflected, her voice weak. I had a feeling, he pressed. A sob escaped her. I think I need help, Tommy. Day 5. Thomas booked a red-eye to California. Elellanar's fever hit 103 degrees Fahrenheit, her arm grotesque, radiating heat. She lay on her couch, barely conscious, when Thomas burst in. Jesus, Mom, he whispered, dropping his bag. Why didn't you tell me? Didn't want to bother you, she mumbled. He insisted on an ambulance, but she refused. Take me to Pinewood urgent care. Dr. Coleman knows me. 20 minutes later, he helped her into her Subaru, treating her arm like a wounded bird. At Pinewood urgent care, Dr. Sarah Coleman's eyes widened at the sight of Elellanar's arm. How long? She asked. 5 days, Thomas answered. Coleman pressed the swelling, and something shifted beneath. Movement, she asked. Elellanar and Thomas stared, uncomprehending. She pressed again, and the skin rippled visibly. Thomas paled. Elellanar felt the room spin. Get Dr. Mitchell from County General, Coleman ordered. The nurse bolted. As they waited, Thomas held his mother's hand, his touch the first real connection since Frank's funeral. What was inside her? And why did it feel like it was fighting to stay? At County General, the ER buzzed with urgency. Elellanar's stretcher rolled into Bay 3, where Dr. William Mitchell, an infectious disease specialist, waited. We suspect a severe parasitic infection, he told Thomas in a consultation room. Human botfly larvae, likely Dermatobia hominis. They're rare this far north, but climate change is shifting their range. Thomas's stomach churned. Bugs growing in her arm? Yes, Mitchell confirmed. Surgical removal is the only option. In the exam room, Mitchell marked a dozen breathing holes on Elellanar's swollen arm. Each press revealed movement, a grotesque dance beneath her skin. Elellanar turned away, tears falling. Thomas gripped her hand. I'm here, Mom. Why was this happening to her? And what would surgery reveal? The surgical waiting room was a sterile cage of muted blues, doing nothing to calm Thomas's pacing. 5 hours into Elellanar's surgery, he alternated between checking his phone and staring at the operating room doors. He'd signed consent forms, answered medical history questions, and realized how little he knew about his mother's recent life. Penicillin allergy, she'd whispered, saving him from admitting his ignorance to the anesthesiologist. Before they wheeled her away, she'd gripped his sleeve. There's a letter in my desk, top right drawer, for you, just in case. Thomas promised to read it, but insisted she'd tell him herself post-surgery. Why a letter? What couldn't she say face-to-face? Dr. Mitchell emerged, exhausted but composed. She's stable, he said. We removed 16 botfly larvae, an unprecedented number. Thomas sank into a chair. Her arm. Mitchell's face grew serious. The larvae were clustered near the radial nerve. We avoided severing it, but there's damage. She may lose hand function. Worse, the larvae had secreted a neurotoxin attacking the myelin sheath around her nerves, potentially spreading beyond her arm. Progressive nerve damage, Mitchell explained. We've started corticosteroids, but this is uncharted territory. Thomas followed to the ICU, where Elellanar lay small and pale, her bandaged arm elevated, monitors beeping. He took her hand. I'm here, Mom. Did she hear him? And what did the toxin mean for her future? 2 weeks later, Elellanar sat on her porch, her arm in a sling, the skin mottled with bruises. Yellow caution tape sealed her bedroom, pending CDC clearance. Thomas brought tea, navigating her new reality. Constant tremors, numb fingertips, and a hand that couldn't button his shirt. Neurological tests confirmed myelin degradation, with potential spread to her legs. It's like my body's betraying me, she told Thomas, her voice fragile. He'd become her caregiver, learning to change dressings, manage medications, and help with daily tasks. His Boston life, job, apartment, girlfriend, was on hold. You should go back, Elellanar insisted. I'm not leaving, he replied. Why did she push him away even now? A physical therapist, Brenda, began home sessions. Elellanar struggled with basic exercises, flexing her wrist, touching thumb to finger, her frustration boiling over. My hand won't listen, she snapped, tears falling. Brenda stayed calm. Nerve regeneration takes time. That evening, a mug slipped from Ellenar's grasp, shattering. I'm a burden, she sobbed. Thomas knelt beside her. You're my mother, not a burden. She confessed, I pushed you away after Frank died. I was ashamed of falling apart. Thomas admitted his own guilt. I thought you blamed me for not being there. The truth spilled out, raw and healing. Why had they waited so long to be honest? Dr. Mitchell referred Elellanar to a support group at County General. She resisted. I don't need strangers, but went for Thomas's sake. There, she met Martha, a former paralysis patient now running marathons, and Robert, surviving a fungal brain infection. Their stories spark hope. Martha mentioned a neurologist in San Francisco, Dr. Patel. Elellanar told Thomas. He specializes in nerve regeneration. Thomas calculated logistics. San Francisco was closer than Boston, with better specialists. But moving meant uprooting her life. Why was hope so terrifying? 3 weeks later, a kitchen crash marked another milestone. Elellanar stood amid broken ceramic, tears streaming. I just wanted tea. Thomas cleaned up his heart aching. It's not just a mug, she said. It's everything, needing help for everything. He took her shoulders. I'm not stuck, Mom. I'm where I want to be. That night, he found her letter in the desk drawer. Reading it aloud, he learned her secrets. She'd helped Frank end his suffering, carried the guilt alone, and hid her financial struggles. I'm proud of you, Tommy, she'd written. My greatest joy. Tears fell as Thomas realized how close he'd come to losing her without knowing her heart. Why do we hide our deepest truths? Dr. Ramirez, a neurologist, delivered grim news 3 months post-surgery. Ellenar's myelin degradation had spread to her left arm and legs, her tremors worsening. There's a clinical trial at UCSF, he said. Dr. Patel's studying myelin regeneration. You're a candidate. Elellanar clutched the trial folder, hope flickering. Thomas arranged a video consultation with Dr. Patel, who explained the 16-week protocol. It's experimental, Patel warned. Risks include seizures, fatigue, nausea. Ellenar's bluntness surfaced. So I'm a guinea pig. Patel smiled. A pioneer. Without treatment, she faced paralysis and respiratory failure within a year. Why did every hope come with such risk? Before deciding, Elellanar insisted on visiting Frank's grave in Pinewood. Thomas rented an accessible van, navigating the cemetery's gravel paths. At Frank's headstone, Elellanar spoke softly. I'm tired, Frank. Part of me wants to join you. She glanced at Thomas. But our son's fighting for me. Do I owe him one more try? Thomas listened, throat tight, as she chose to fight, not for a miracle, but for time with him. Why does love make us brave? In San Francisco, they settled into a Pacific Heights residential hotel, 3 blocks from UCSF. Baseline tests confirmed 65% myelin degradation. The trial began with infusions in a warm treatment room, alongside patients like Patricia, whose MS had improved. An hour into Ellenar's first infusion, she convulsed violently. Nurses sprang into action, administering sedatives. Dr. Patel arrived, grim. An autoimmune reaction. She can't continue. Thomas reeled. After all their hope, the trial was over in a day. What now? In the hospital, Elellanar woke, accepting the news with weary calm. No more trial. I'm special in all the wrong ways. Thomas refused to give up. There are other treatments. She made him promise. When the time comes, let me go with dignity. The word palliative echoed Frank's final days. Thomas wandered to a hospital garden, breaking down under a cherry tree. Patricia found him, offering a tissue. Plasma exchange bought me time, she said. It's not nothing. Why did every step forward feel like a loss? A month later, Dr. Patel called with a bombshell. Ellenar's blood samples showed the botfly neurotoxin had transformed, bonding with myelin instead of destroying it. We could synthesize it for a new treatment, he said. It's a long shot. Elellanar, weakened and wheelchair-bound, agreed to try. Not for a miracle, but for you, Tommy. The first synthesized infusions began, slow and cautious. Weeks passed with no change. Tremors worsened. Swallowing grew harder. Thomas researched hospice in secret, his hope fraying. Why did this feel like tempting fate? 5 weeks in, Elellanar noticed less burning in her feet. A week later, her finger moved with control. Tests confirmed it. The progression had stopped, with slight reversal. Your body's rewriting the rules, Patel said. Over months, function returned. First hands, then arms, then legs. By month 10, Elellanar traded her wheelchair for a cane. At 18 months, she stood at a UCSF conference, presenting the Whitfield protocol. I'm not cured, she told the crowd, but I can button my blouse, walk with my son, live my life. Why do some miracles come disguised as disasters? Thomas, now a part-time neurological nurse, watched with pride. Their relationship, once distant, was now unbreakable. They sold the Pinewood house, choosing a San Francisco condo near Golden Gate Park. Sorting through Frank's study, they found his journals, revealing his love in ways Thomas never knew. He showed you every day, Elellanar said. At their new home, sunlight poured in, birds sang outside. Frank would approve, Thomas said. Elellanar smiled. He would. Why does healing the body so often heal the heart? 18 months after a bug bite changed everything, Elellanar Whitfield stood before a packed auditorium, her steady hands holding notes she didn't need. The Whitfield protocol, born from her body's unlikely alchemy, offered hope to others with myelin degradation. But her true victory wasn't medical. It was the bond rebuilt with Thomas. A parasite that nearly killed her forced him to face years of unspoken grief, guilt, and love. From Pinewood's isolation to San Francisco's community, Elellanar learned vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the doorway to connection. Thomas, once a distant son, became her caregiver, then her partner in a new life. He traded Boston's sterility for nursing, finding purpose in his mother's struggle. Their story asks, what walls have you built to protect yourself? What might happen if you let them fall? Elellanar's illness stripped away pride, revealing a truth she'd hidden from Thomas and herself. We need each other, not just survive, but to live fully. The Whitfield protocol continues to evolve, saving lives no one expected to save. But for Elellanar and Thomas, the real miracle was a journey. Through fear, pain, and hope to a home filled with sunlight and shared laughter. What would you fight for, even when the odds seem impossible? And who would you fight alongside? Share your story below, from wherever you're watching. This isn't just Elellanar's tale. It's a reminder that our greatest battles can lead to our deepest connections.